In this video, we are going to review factoring when a is greater than 1 using the guess and check method. For our first example, we need to go through the same process where we need to figure out so that we have something that multiplies to -5 and adds to -12. And we want to set up our factors based on this 9b squared. So we know we're going to have a b and a b. However, in order to get 9b squared, you could either have 9b times b, or you could have 3b times 3b, which means that I could have 9b and b, or we could have 3b and 3b, adding an extra, slightly more complicated step to this whole process. So we want to figure out what are we going to fill in to the parentheses so that when I check those same products, just like we did in the last video, this product plus this product adds to equal -12b. Or if it's the second part, this product plus this product adds equal -12b. Now, in order to do this, if we consider what multiplies to -5, I could have either 1 and -5 or -1 and 5. So if I plug into the terms, let's say I start with the first one. So I start with 1 and -5. This is going to give me 1 times b is b, and not 9b times -5 is -45b, which gives us -44b, so it does not work. Now let's try the 1 and 5 in the bottom expression. So I do +1 minus 5. The 1 times 3b gives us a value of 3b, and 3b times -5 gives us a value of -15b. And when I add those two, it gives me a value of -12b, meaning that this example works. So your answer would be 3b plus 1 and 3b minus 5. And depending upon the case, this may take as numerous more examples, or we may be able to get there quickly. All it depends on is the order you guess and check in. You can choose whichever you would like to start with and then continue as needed. Now for this example, we need to make it so that they multiply to 6a squared. So in order to get 6a squared, you can either have 6a times a or 2a times 3a. So if I set up my factors, I could either have 6a and a, or I could have 2a times 3a. In either case, though, we want to check that the product of the first parentheses plus the product of the second set of parentheses adds to equal that middle term. So we're multiplying to 15 and adding to 19. So we want to add to 19a. And similarly, I want to say, we want to check to make sure this term plus the product of the 2a with the last terms adds to equal 19a. Now, if I'm checking what multiplies to 15, I could have either 1 and 15, -1, -15, 3 and 5, and -3, -5. So if I start checking, if I start with, to go in order, so I say +1 plus 15. If I do that, that gives me a value of A, and the 6 times 15 gives us a value of 90A, which adds a 91A, so it doesn't work. Now if I fill in plus 1 plus 15, the 1 times A gives me a value of 3A, and the 2A times 15 gives us a value of 30A, which is 33A, so it does not work. Now let's try switching the order. So now instead I'm going to put plus 15 so plus 15 and plus 1. So if I do that, this gives me 15A, and 6A times 1 gives me a value of 6A. It's adds to 21A, so it does not work. Similarly, if I do 15 plus 1, 15 times 3A is 45A, and 2A times 1 is 2A, which gives us 47A, so it does not work, meaning that 1 and 15 is not an option. Now if I continue with the next example, I have -1 and -15. However, in both those cases, the -1, -15 didn't get us anywhere near our answers. So let's try going to the next set of numbers. So if I choose to do plus 3 plus 5, this would be 3A, and 6A times 5 is 30A, which gives us a value of 33A, which does not work. So next, let's try the 3 and 15 with the next term, or the 3 and 5 with the next pair. So this would be plus 3 plus 5. 3 times 3A is 9A. 2A times 5 is 10A, which gives us 19A. So it works, indicating to us that our last pair, our factors, should be 2A plus 3 and 3A plus 5. In our last example, we need to figure out what we're going to have in the first part of our parentheses, so we get 4n squared. Now in order to get 4n squared, you could have 4n times n, or 2n times 2n. So if I set up my parentheses, I know I'm going to either have 4n and n, or 2n and 2n. And again, we're checking that this pair, so the product of the last and the first, plus the product of the first term and the last, should add to equal the middle term. So in this case, we want them to multiply to 9 and add to -20 n. So if I first list what multiplies to 9, you can have 1 and 9, -1, -9, 3 and 3, or -3 and -3. So if I fill in plus 1 plus 9, 1 times n gives me a value of n, and 4n times 3 times n is 36n, and n plus 36n is 37n, which does not work. If I fill in the plus 1 and plus 9 to the second set, 1 times 2n gives me a value of 2n, and 2n times 18, or times 9 gives us a value of 18n. So this is a total of 20n. Now we see that this is really similar, but not quite. So now let's instead try to change the signs because we know that we're close. So instead of using positive and positive, let's try using a negative times a negative. So if I were to do that, I'd have minus 1 minus 9. We get negative 1 times 2n, which is negative 2n. And 2n times negative 9 is negative 18n, which adds equal negative 20n, which is our answer. So this means that our final answer is 2n minus 1 and 2n minus 9. So as you can see, you can start to develop an idea of what your goal is and kind of focus your factoring to try to work closer to get to that end result.